Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today, Kaylee and I are going to be going over the best places to see in Grand Staircase-Escalante National Monument.
We have spent a lot of time in this area of Utah, and it is hands down one of our favorite places in the state, so we are really excited to show you around. Less crowded than many of Utah's national parks, Grand Staircase-Escalante National Monument offers adventurers a chance to escape the hustle and bustle and immerse themselves in the tranquility of nature. Here you'll find vast, untouched wilderness waiting to be explored, hidden waterfalls and winding slot canyons with endless opportunities for off-the-beaten-path adventures.
Most of the places that we're going to talk about are along Hole in the Rock Road, which is quite possibly the worst road in the world. No, I'm just kidding. That's an exaggeration. But it is so bumpy that it will rattle a camper van loose.
It's pretty bad, yeah.
It'll be the frame driving down the road. The road into Grand Escalante is called Hole in the Rock, and it is not very well maintained. Best vehicle to have is a Jeep with adjustable suspension and tires that you can air down. You could fly along the road doing like 60, 70 kilometers, whereas we're doing about 20 kilometers an hour.
One of the biggest draws to this area is the wild camping opportunities. So within this national monument, there are tons of places that you can wild camp. You just have to make sure to leave no trace. You can get more information on this online or at the visitor center.
If you're planning to do any backcountry camping, be sure to check in at the visitor center in Escalante, and they will be able to let you know whether you need a permit or not. You can also call them as well.
Yeah, a lot of these permits are free or very cheap. It's just a way for them to keep tabs on people, and let's say a flash flood was coming in or something like that, they just know who's there and they can try to get you out safely. So something very important to keep in mind is that there are no stores or gas stations or anything along Hole in the Rock Road. So if you are planning to spend a weekend there, you need to stock up with food, water, gas, everything you need in Escalante before you leave. The first place that you have to go is Lower Calf Creek Falls. This is a beautiful 126-foot waterfall in the middle of the desert. It is very, very cool, and this is the only place on this list that is not located on Hole in the Rock Road. The trail begins at Calf Creek Campground, which we've actually stayed at. It's a great campground if you're looking for one in the area, and you do have to pay $5 if you want to just park for the day and do this hike. In total, this hike is 9.8 kilometers and 162 meters of elevation gain. It is relatively flat.
Make sure to bring plenty of water because it does get really hot during the day.
Yes, it's very exposed. Because it is quite accessible, this can be a busy trail, so if you're going to do it, we recommend doing it first thing in the morning. If you are planning a trip to Utah, we have a travel guide for adventure lovers that covers all of our favorite places in this beautiful state. This guide details everything you need to know about traveling through Utah, including the best hikes, natural hot springs, activities, photo spots, where to stay, the best way to get around, and super helpful tips on wild camping and finding amenities for van lifers. Covering all 5 national parks in detail, plus a ton of hidden gems outside of the parks, let us do all the research so that all you have to worry about is enjoying your trip. This guide is an instant download, and we cannot wait to share it with you. We have already got so much great feedback on it. We will link it below. Make sure to check it out.
The first stop along Hole in the Rock Road is going to be Zebra Slot Canyon. This trail is about 8.4 kilometers round trip and 115 meters of elevation gain. These canyons are so much fun to explore. Me and Kaylee have done quite a few of them when we're traveling around Utah, and this one is very cool and not as popular as a lot of the other ones.
Something that you really have to keep in mind when you're hiking slot canyons is you need to check the weather. So if there is any chance of rain, do not go into this slot canyon. And then you also need to have a GPS device that you can call for help if you need to, just because with the risk of flash floods in this area, the slot canyons can get very dangerous very quickly. The next stop we'd recommend on Hole in the Rock Road is Devil's Garden. This whole hike is under a kilometer with very little elevation gain, but it's got some really cool rock formations that you could kind of just putter around and explore.
We saw a lot of families kicking around here, just enjoying the area. Next up is Cosmic Ashtray. This place is a little bit challenging, and you can actually access it from the north or the south. We chose to do it from the south, and we actually took our e-bikes there because the road is very challenging, and this is actually the way that we would recommend. If you have 4x4 and experience driving in deeper sand, you won't have a problem doing this, but we actually took our e-bikes there and we found that a lot easier. You could also hike this if you had all day. One of the craziest places we have ever been. Would highly recommend it. It's worth the adventure. We parked at the Harris Wash trailhead and hiked the rest of the way. It's about 15 kilometers round trip from this spot. Actually, I shouldn't say we hiked, we actually e-biked.
We were able to get pretty close on our e-bikes, and we kind of stopped where the parking spot would be if you were to drive in with a 4-wheel drive vehicle. And from there, it's about 4 kilometers round trip, which is a lot more manageable. There are a lot of places in Utah that we would recommend going for sunrise or sunset, and this is actually not one of them. We showed up for sunset thinking it was going to be great, and the shadows were really harsh for photography. So I actually think the middle of the day would be a great time when the sun is beating down and you can see all of the sand lit up.
If you want to go down into the Ashtray itself, there is a spot, but we didn't choose to do this because it did look very dicey, and we don't have a lot of climbing experience when it comes to these types of landscapes. So we chose not to do this. If you want to do it, I would bring a rope that's probably around 50 to 75 feet and a few people. I wouldn't go down there on your own just in case you get stuck.
Yeah, we did read like a Google review about somebody whose dog actually ran down there and got stuck, and they were having a really hard time getting them out. So just something to keep in mind. Also, you're free to bring pets. Downloading an offline map for this hike is essential because there is virtually no trail. So you just will have the pin on your phone and you'll be walking towards it.
Next up on the list is a spot that Kaylee was terrified of.
I was so scared of you guys. Okay, so Peekaboo and Spooky Slot Canyons. These are 2 slot canyons that you can do in a loop. And it, to this day, is one of the coolest and most terrifying things that I've ever done simultaneously. I actually had a full-on panic attack in the middle of the slot canyon. So if you're claustrophobic, it's a no for you. But if you're okay in small spaces, people have told me that they've brought like their kids and their pets in there, and I just am like, I'm in shock. I don't know how people have done that.
Everyone has a different comfort level.
Yes, but there are bars at the beginning of the hike that show you how narrow things get. David and I, for reference, were having, like, we couldn't, my feet wouldn't fit sideways going through one part of the slot canyon. We're hiking through like this, and there was like blood on the walls from the people that had come through before because they were scratching themselves. So
a little extra spooky.
It's a little bit intense. Again, you want to make sure that you are not going on this hike if rain is in the forecast for the surrounding 50-kilometer area, or if there's any flash flood warnings, and go and enjoy. Preferably don't have a panic attack.
Next up on the list was my personal favorite in Grand Staircase-Escalante National Monument. It is the Jacob Hamblin Arch. We are going to talk about the sneaker route, although there is multiple routes you can do to get to this location. You can turn it into a multi-day backpacking trip, which me and Kaylee would do if we went there again.
Yeah.
Because it is that amazing. If you want to do this just as quickly kind of as possible, this is going to be the way to do it. It is about 7.5 kilometers and 206 meters of elevation. Most of the elevation you're going to gain is actually using a rope to scale down a wall. Now, this part is a little intimidating if you don't have experience handling climbing ropes. It's going to be a surprise for you, and you might be a little bit outside of your comfort level. So to do this, you're going to need about a 250-foot rope. We're going to link the rope that we bought on Amazon before heading down here in the description below. There is a rope at the location already, typically, but it's good practice not to trust another person's rope because you don't know what kind of shape it is. If it's been out in the sun for like 3 years, it could just snap at any moment. So it's always a good idea to bring your own rope.
Yeah, you also don't know, like, if there's only one rope there and you go down and then that person hikes out and brings the rope, then you're stuck down in the gulch, right? So definitely want to bring your own just
yes,
as a backup.
And we also have a specific YouTube video just for this hike. We'll link it down below in the description if you want more details on it. You can park at Water Tanks Trailhead. The road in here is long and bumpy as the rest of the roads in this area, so no shocker there, but it is very doable with a 2-wheel drive.
We actually camped on the way to the trailhead because the road, the washboard got so bad that we just pulled over, spent the night, and went in on our e-bikes. There is, again, no cell service and a pretty poorly marked trail, so make sure that you have an offline map. There are little like rock piles that we actually found pretty useful along the trail. And the last thing on our list is Reflection Canyon. So this is one of the most iconic places in Utah, but it is such a pain to get to.
To do this hike, you're gonna need high clearance 4x4, ideally. The road in to the trailhead is challenging, and the trailhead is also vague. It is at the end of Hole in the Rock Road, essentially, so it takes a long time to get down there.
In total, this trail is 24 kilometers and 477 meters of elevation gain, so the most popular thing to do is to do it as an overnight hike.
That way you can get epic views in the morning during sunrise.
If you plan to camp here, make sure that you stop at the visitor center and get a free permit, and the really important thing to remember here is that there is nowhere to fill up with water, so you need to pack in all of the water that you're going to use. But the views here are so worth it. If you can't do the hike and you still want to see Reflection Canyon, there are a few companies that offer helicopter tours here. That is kind of a cool option if you really want to see it and the hike is just not possible for you. We can link those tour operators below. We do have a blog post that goes over the wild camping, leave no trace, and it also has a bunch of other places that are in the area that we haven't tried yet or that are on our list. So you can check that out if you're looking for a few more ideas in Grand Staircase-Escalante National Monument.
If you have any questions or other suggestions of the best things to do in Grand Staircase-Escalante, let us know in the comments below. We'd love to hear from you.
Make sure to check out our Utah travel guide. It has got everything that we love about the state and we can't wait to share it with you. So we will link that below.
If you found this video useful, be sure to like and subscribe to the channel. We'll see you guys in the next one.
See you next week.